I think people were right to be a bit skeptical of this whole idea when it was announced, because yes, we want everything to move faster, but there's always unintended consequences with these kinds of, like really
Sure.
significant shifts in one direction on how stuff is supposed to go.
Man, who let that guy build that building? There needs to be some restraint. There's a lot of crazy people out there, guys. Come on.
Yes, and there's processes for that, but the
I
province
don't
took
know.
away the city's ability to regulate a lot of
Density
aspects of a
and
building
height
design.
and that type of stuff. Yeah.
I
Well,
think
on building, like the materials and whatnot, like there's the city still does that, and we still work with the city on that, but there's very limited opportunity in the Planning Act for the city to do that now. And so yeah, people could put up absurd looking buildings, and part of me hopes they do,
right.
because it doesn't happen all the time, right? And I think there's architects that are doing some really interesting stuff in Toronto, and it's we'll see what people do with this 6-story stuff. Ultimately, I think you create a new sort of typology. Like with laneway suites, I see them getting built now, and they all look kind of similar because they all maximize the volume that they're given. And so they got the little slant on the second floor, and they got the however they want to do the bedrooms and the living room, whether it's on the first or second floor, and they all look kind of similar in a reasonable way. So I think you're going to see that with the 6-story buildings too.
I think by defining those side, front, back setbacks and heights in a blanket area gives people the opportunity to do whatever the hell they want. And yeah, people might be reckless and build some stupid shit, but you don't have to buy them. Right? You don't have to buy something in that building. You don't have to live there. So I think the onus is still going to be on the developer to make a product that people will want to live in, especially if you make it that easy that anybody can just be a developer and get stock onto the market. Like whenever this glut that we have building up right now kind of clears itself up, we'll be behind the 8 ball by a mile again, right?
Yeah, well, as far as I've heard from the city, application volume is slowing down. They're not
It's gotta be
not as much
slowing
going
down.
in. Yeah,
That's what I was gonna
which
say. Like
yeah,
it was
Good
supposed to
timing to be doing
be
a project right now. Yeah.
well, but it was supposed to be more houses quicker, and we're getting less houses slower, right? And
yeah,
part policy, that's what I'm saying is like the policy to unlock all this stuff actually slowed things down because everybody that was in the process already or already just zoned just went, whoa, hang on a sec. We can like
yeah.
really go back and get a ton of more. And like we would, like TK said, like you'd be stupid not to try it, right? So it actually put the brakes on, plus the market's fucked. Like all these things are not pushing people towards doing more deals. And even like we talked about a couple of weeks ago that maybe people are not closing on the properties, so we don't see that land value transfer from transfer title, so we don't know about a sale, but we would know from the volume of applications in if people were moving forward on land projects and not closing. So we're seeing a slowdown in land purchases, we're seeing a slowdown in applications going in, and on top of that we're seeing the ones that are in not speeding up, going back in for more,
Yeah.
which is slowing things down, right? And then so I want to throw something in that we're dealing with right now, which is just ridiculous. Okay. Like right now, we can have a glut in the system because of a flow test. Okay. And so what everybody in the city is now going to deal with is they've closed down your ability to have a flow test between November 15th and April 15th of next year, which means no applications that don't have a flow test can be deemed complete when submitting, which is a real fuck up for anybody who's willing to even goddamn submit anything right now. Now you got to go, I could be ready to go in February, but I got to wait, and not till April 15th. I got to wait till April 15th to book my flow test. I probably have to wait, to get that booked, have it done, get the report, and then add it in. So now maybe I'm lucky if by May or June I'm submitting. When I was ready in February, I could be selling in June, but I need a flow test. And so
You're really getting into the weeds now, eh?
Well, but this is like the crazy dichotomy, or is that the right word? Like
what's the reason for the you know, the gap from November to April, why they're not doing the flow test.
Weather, it's too cold to do it or something.
So how can that be, you know, prevented?
I don't know. Why don't they just do a flow test everywhere before November so it's just on file?
I mean, I'm not the one to ask about how those work, but
Let us do it later. And
I mean, the city has to be part of it, right? So you got to schedule it with the city, and your engineer goes out and they do it. We just got one done a couple of weeks ago for a file that we've had in for a bit, and yeah, it's. I mean, from the city's perspective, I get it. They need to know before they're approving a bunch of new units that there's servicing capacity. You know, that there's capacity for the people to, you know, turn on their tap and there's going to be water there, right?
Water is important.
Yeah, water is
but
important.
If there isn't, then like there's no other option than to make sure that there is, right?
Well, then you get into a conversation about, you know, making sure the city is on top of infrastructure improvements, and that's costly, and that gets debated every year around budget time. And you know, it's I think between November 15th and April 15th, yeah, there's going to be an issue, and I don't know. I've reached out to the city to say, hey, what's going to happen here if we're in a situation where the city wants to be advancing so many units or approving so many units every month to make sure they hit the timelines, the, you know, 285,000 units they have to have built by 2032, then you can't have this 5-month window where stuff isn't able to be deemed complete unless, like, there's ways to approach it.
Hopefully there's ways to remedy
forward.
And the point of it is like
figure that out. But
it's like, it's crazy though that we, you know, everybody's trying to put on a front that they're trying to get more housing done, and then, you know, all these crazy things come up as part of the process. And now there's like this new thing that you got to do all this drilling for like 40 grand before you put in an application to find like exactly where your services are so that the city can definitely get the trees that they were promised in the space that they were promised them. It's like it's really not actually easier. It's the people in planning are definitely like, they want it to be easier. They're like, yes, bring us this, and we're on board with that, and we're definitely wanting to get this thing done for you. But then there's like these little rules that are like relics from the past or new stupid ideas that infiltrate the beautiful thing trying to happen, right?
Well, it's growing pains too. It's you know, there's a process that the province put into place about, you know, 90 days you get your zoning approved, or you give 50% of the fees back to the applicant, and that's the way it is right now. And so the cities don't want to give this money back because over, you know, for big projects especially, it's a considerable amount of money.
Flow test.
And so they've created this process that allows stuff to get through quickly if you have all the information they need. And so this is just, you know, this just started on July 1st of this year, so we're only 3 or 4 months into it. And yeah, there's all of this stuff that's like, okay, well, maybe this has to be looked at because it has to work better, and this it's iterative because it has to be. And honestly, like, it was, I think people were right to be a bit skeptical of this whole idea when it was announced, because yes, we want everything to move faster, but there's always unintended consequences with these kinds of, you know, like really significant shifts in one direction on how stuff is supposed to go.
Hard to
That's
cover
very
all
technical
the
too,
bases.
right? Like, these are a lot of the things that just have to be done. It's not like it's a policy thing, right?
No, it's just like, literally, you need to know that the building can be serviced before you build it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants that. The builder, the city,
everybody
the people living
wants
there.
it. Why can't we do it though? Like, what, does the water not flow anymore between November and April? What the hell is this thing? Anyways, the point is that it should be like, you know what, we're going to accept your application, and when this thing is allowed to happen, like, you know, add it in. It shouldn't slow the process down, should it?
Well, I mean, you could do it. You just put a holding provision on your bylaw, and so the city will likely move stuff forward. And then you just lift the holding provision after you get the hydrant flow test done. So that's one way to deal with it, and that's what I think people might ultimately do. And the city is working. They were trying to get usually with a hold, you have to go to council and get council to lift the hold, and there's a process with that, which is it's way too, shouldn't be the process. So under the Planning Act, the city at the staff level can remove the hold. The chief planner can do it. They just need authority to do it. So council has to agree to that. So council could do themselves and everybody else a favor by never having to look at holding provisions again and just delegate it to staff. And they should
Mhm.
totally do that. There's other stuff they can delegate to staff too. Whether it's minor zoning amendments or things that, like, the problem is you get into these processes and then if there's a lot of public input around things that are very technical, and it's one of the reasons why you don't have a public process for a holding provision. Like you were talking about earlier, you get comments from people on what the building is going to look like, and you got neighbors that are upset and everything else. And I think, there's certain things that we really shouldn't need to consult on because they don't add any value to the process. And ultimately it's tokenism. Like if you go out to people and say, hey, this new building is getting built and it's 6 stories and it's in an area where the city wants to see 6-story buildings. What do you think of the building? Is it too tall? Why ask that question? Because the answer is it doesn't matter. It's going to be 6 stories. So it just, then people get frustrated with the process on both sides because it takes too long and people don't feel listened to. So I think we got to be much more transparent, like you said, about what can happen, where it can happen, and let it happen as of right. And then work through some of these technical issues like the hydrant flow test. And then there'll be just less brain damage for everybody involved.
Are the planners back at their offices now, or are they still working from home?
It's a mix. It's hybrid. So it's, they generally go in on committee days, and I think they go in 3 times a week. So that's what I've heard anyway.
So do you feel like they're like, and what's the situation with the job market with planners? Like, are they understaffed still? Like the city Toronto Planning Department?
They're hiring tons of people. And they had to because they were kind of behind. Like they had a big shortfall of staff, and it's like they're hiring a lot of people.
Because that's a simple solution, right?
As well, and it was so there's a lot of planning applicants. It's hard to find people with experience, but I mean I'm sure that's the case in every industry. So
yeah, because I imagine that's the one solution where if they were saying, like Darryl was saying, oh, they really want to make things work, and you're saying, well, they really don't want to lose those fees if they take too long to approve the application. Well, then they should be at the office working. And they should be doing the things that are necessary by hiring more people, right?
It's
like
not them. Like they are a different they that care about, the money not coming in, right? It's the planner at the city level, like the person reviewing the application. They don't really care if that money comes. They're not thinking shit.
But
I won't have my money.
New people does. And so they should be hiring more people to ensure, right? So there's no delays, right? So that's what I want to see as a constituent. It's like, yeah, okay. Not only are you saying you're doing things, but you're actually taking action and spending the money and adding. Like the federal government's giving up some land in order for people to build on. They want to have like 30,000 homes or something like that built over the next, whatever it is, 7-8 years. So like this is all political stuff, but it shows like, okay, you're actually trying to, build more houses. And so City of Toronto with their policies is obviously a good way. It's a good start, but we want to see other things too. We want to see like there's more planners. They've hired more planners. They've maybe, I don't know if they need more meetings, if there needs to be more like frequent meetings for committee of adjustment, whatever it is.
The committee backlog is actually, committee's pretty short right now. I'm getting meetings in like, 5 to 6 weeks from applying, which is like way better than it used to be. So that's a good thing. I think it's just the volume is a bit down, but on the planners being in the office doing the stuff or not, like nobody wants to wear a refund, right? Like if your application doesn't, get across the finish line, if it's, something that you could have otherwise avoided, nobody wants to wear that. And so, because the reality is a lot of the application fees pay for the budget for city planning. So overall as a division, I don't think anybody wants to have to refund stuff. And honestly, most of the applicants I deal with, they don't care about the refund either. They'd rather everybody was just kind of working together. And if the approval takes a month longer, then so what? But there's this like kind of, really hard deadline that it's, challenging to deal with. And so choices have to get made. And if there's more staff, well, like that helps. The city's trying to do that right now. But I mean, I spent 2.5 years when I was at the city working almost entirely remote. I probably got more done remote than I did. Yeah, I'm a big fan of remote work. Like that's all.
When I said that out loud, I didn't mean to say that you need.
Oh
to
yeah, no, I know.
At the office, but somebody needs to be at the office.
I just wanted to have the office empty because I love it. It's great. So and it doesn't work for everybody, but
couple days home, couple days at the office. So there's a cycle. So when you go there and you want an answer, you get an answer. Yeah.
Like, comment, and subscribe if you got anything from one of these clips. And if you want to see some more, press something on the screen here. Boom.
That was good.
That was good.
I like that. That was good.